The 1980 eruption of Mount St. Helens was the most destructive volcanic activity in the continental U.S. since 1915. 57 people were killed, with hundreds left displaced and untold more left forever changed from the events. With clouds of ash still drifting through the air, stories began to emerge of a strange winged beast seen flying around the eruption site. Witnesses described an ape-like body with large leathery wings and a pair of glowing red eyes. The Batsquatch is said to be a large humanoid monstrosity, measuring in at more than 9 feet tall and weighing as much as a grown grizzly bear. The creature is said to have piercing yellow eyes, blue-tinged dark fur, razor-sharp teeth, a wolf-like muzzle, a broad muscle-bound torso, and bat-like wings that span up to 50 feet. The beast is also said to have psychic abilities. Telekinetic powers allow it to affect man-made objects like car engines, radios, and television sets. One theory suggests that Batsquatch could be a surviving descendant of prehistoric bats. Another possibility is that Batsquatch is a case of convergent evolution, where two unrelated species develop similar traits due to similar environmental pressures. In April of 1994, Brian Canfield was driving home one night through the backwoods of Pierce County, Washington. He was miles from civilization when suddenly his car froze in place. Canfield tried to start the engine several times, but the old pickup refused to come to life. He was on the verge of getting out to take a closer look when something swooped across his headlights. At first, he assumed it must have been some large bird. His hand was on the door handle when the monster landed on the vehicle's hood. Canfield described the creature as standing 9 feet tall with a bat's face and wings attached to a blue furry humanoid body. He noted the large fangs in the creature's mouth and glowing red eyes. Here is what Canfield reported in an interview with the News Tribune in Tacoma, Washington in 1994.
It was standing there staring at me, like it was resting, like it didn't know what to think. I was scared, it raised the hair on me, I didn't feel threatened. I just felt out of place. It's looking right at me like in a deep stare, like right through me. It's standing perfectly still. It stood for I don't know how long, several minutes. Then its fingers twitched and its wings began to unfold. Those wings were as wide as the road. It turned its head and looked back at me and started flapping its wings. A few minutes later, the truck just started. I took off as fast as I could.
February 3rd, 1998. It was a dark and stormy night. I had taken a fall and landed not too far from the edge of a cliff. Being knocked out, I don't know how long I had laid there. Perhaps 3 or 4 hours. My watch had been torn off by the fall along with most of my gear. Yeah, I was barely conscious when I heard a loud, deep bass like yell from the air. The sound was accompanied by a semi-truck horn from below the cliff from which I had almost rolled off hours earlier. I gazed below, trying to focus my eyes to see clearly. My head pounded from the fall. It was impossible to realize that the next few moments would change my life forever. What I saw, I kept secret for many years, mainly because I had a good job and I didn't want to lose it. Perhaps I shouldn't have kept silent. My silence has caused the death of so many animals and put a town at risk. At risk of what? I will let you be the judge. I was able to witness a logging truck filled full of Douglas firs hit a large object in the middle of the narrow dirt logging road. I thought it was a large stump at first sight, but the object upon being struck bounced into the air, almost flying, then fell into the canyon below. It was strange because I could have sworn the object was they was purple and had wings, but I attributed the color to my bloodstained glasses and the wings to my inability to see very clearly. What I did see was a cloud of dust from the semi as its brakes were applied, the driver attempting desperately to miss the object in the road. At first, the truck slid headlong into the object. Then as the truck hit the thing, it must have dazed the driver of the truck because the long semi abruptly swung left, hitting the cliff wall, then jackknifing. The rear of the trailer still slowing as it swung precariously near the edge of the right side of the road, 100 feet above the steep rocky walled valley below. Then, as if in slow motion, the dirt road under the rear of the trailer gave way, and the rig slowly started falling trailer first over the edge of the road. It was as if something had clutched the back of the trailer and pulled it over the side of the logging road. I desperately tried to see through the cracked windshield of the semi before it too followed the rest of its trailer over the edge of the road. Always, I will remember the sound of the twisting metal as the truck slid down the valley cliff and crashed to the bottom. There was no explosion, no fire, just the sound of metal scraping against rock and echoing off the canyon walls. A few moments later, only silence and a small cloud of dust rose from the valley below me. I couldn't see where the truck ended its slide down the rocks. It had disappeared below the steep sides of the canyon. Of all the things a person could think of after such a terrible accident. What I remember the most is the silence of the forest. There was no wind, no sound of birds, nothing. It was as if the time had stopped. The forest had ceased to be alive. Reality finally set in. I thought of how I'm gonna go down to see if the driver was still alive. No, that was crazy. No one could have survived such an event. I suddenly realized that I was sore and bruised everywhere. Now my reality was coming back to me as I felt the wet blood on my forehead. I slowly moved my legs. Thank goodness I could still move them. I slowly tried each of my other appendages, hoping I was still in one piece from my fall, judging by the sun. It appeared to be mid-afternoon. The last I could recall, it was 10:30 in the morning. After assessing I was still in one piece, I cleaned my glasses and began looking for a way to the floor of the valley. See, it wouldn't have been easy without a very long rope and some experience in rappelling. I had neither. I decided the best course of action would be to hike back out and get help. I'd gone only about 10 feet into the dense underbrush when I heard and felt an unusually strong gust of wind. The forest was still unusually quiet. I decided to sit down and enjoy the breeze, hoping it would give me a brief moment of respite before I began my hurried march to get help. As I sat in the dense brush, a large shadow came over my part of the forest. I gazed out, and as incredible as it may seem, I witnessed a large purplish beast descend onto the very spot where I only moments earlier had laid it head with it, another beast that was battered and not moving. To my horror, I realized that this second beast was the object the truck driver had hit on the road. My first thought was to rush up to the beast and ask if it would help me discover if the truck driver was still alive. Obviously, I had not recovered from my head wound at that time. Fortunately, I regained my senses and decided not to go rushing up to this creature with my arms waving about. It was purple. I mean, it was really purple. Its skin, claws, hair, nostrils, everything about this creature was purple. I have known people whom have disputed that there is such a color as purple, meaning that either purple is a shade of blue or a shade of brown. If any of them were to witness this creature, they would understand what the color of purple is. I couldn't describe it as a deep purple nor a dirty purple, only a purple in its purest form. The creature stood about 15 feet high when it was sitting hunched over in front of me. I later discovered that this creature would measure an easy 30 feet from head to bottom once it was airborne. So I say bottom because it didn't really have a tail. The head of the animal was unusually small compared to its massive body. The beady purple eyes would remind anyone who has the misfortune of seeing them believe that this creature could be of the Rattan family. While other characteristics of the head also had many features of the Rattan family, being of noteworthy comment is the long pointed ears from which protruded from the top of the creature's head. The nose was rather small, the most pronounced feature of the nose being its unusual color of purple. I believe this is the only creature in the world that has a purple nose. The wingspan of the creature looked very small, as if it couldn't fly with such a small wing surface. However, I later learned once the creature was airborne, the wings extended out to form a wingspan of a good 40 feet. The most disturbing feature of the large beast was its hands. It appeared to have 4 sets of them. Perhaps I should clarify that to mean 2 sets of claw hands on the wings about midway and another set on the torso, almost as if they were human. The creature was very frightening to look at and could almost be a cross between a large bat and excessively large furry human. I believe the most accurate description would be that given by some of the local townsfolk whom later had the misfortune of encountering the beast and naming it Batsquatch.
Fast forward to April 2009, Paul Dale Roberts posted on the site, unexplained mysteries and encounter recounted to him by some hikers on Mount Shasta that sounds like Batsquatch. Me and my friend were hiking around Mount Shasta, and out of one of the crevices flew out this big creature. I mean, this thing was huge. It was as tall as a man, as stocky as Hulk Hogan, and had leathery wings. I believe the wingspan was at least 50 feet from one end to the other. I was holding up my camera, but was paralyzed with fear as this thing flew by. I didn't get a picture, sorry. What do you think this might be? Could it have been a Petery pterodactyl? It was flying or gliding fast. It seemed to have a head of a bat. Thinking about it, it doesn't have the head of a pterodactyl. I just saw a picture of a pterodactyl out there, and the heads are not similar. I would think it had the head of a bat, or maybe more like a fox. The damn thing finally flew into a clump of trees and vanished. I heard you guys might be going back to Mount Shasta. If you do, please look out for this thing. If you see it, you will shit all over yourself. I kid you not.
March 18, 2011, the incident occurred on a rural road in Butler County between Chicora and East Brady. The witness, a businessman passing through the area, stated that this was the freakiest thing I ever saw, and it made the hair stand up on the back of my neck. He was driving down the road when, from about a quarter mile away, he observed something on the right side in a grassy area. His first thought was that it was a deer. The driver stepped on the gas to move closer to get a better view. From about 50 yards away, he saw something that appeared to be hunched down and then stood up, a very tall, muscular creature. At this point, the driver had his high beams on and watched as the creature walked in front of a yellow reflective road sign, then crossed the 2-lane road in 3 long steps and continued into a wooded area. What he saw was a humanoid figure that stood at least 8 feet tall and appeared to have smooth, leathery skin that was of either a darker tan or light brown color. The creature never looked at the witness and was only observed from its side. The head appeared to be flat in the front section and then rounded out at the top back of skull. It was like one of those aerodynamic helmets. The top was not quite a point, but looked like a ridge on top of the head. The face was flat, and the eyes were not clearly defined, but the man thought that they might have been pointed in the corner. The ear that was observed on the left side was long and flat, and came up and back and was pointed backwards like a flap. The arms were muscular and a little longer than that of a human. The hands looked more like a claw, but the number of fingers was unclear. One physical trait that stood out was the extremely muscular legs. The witness stated that it was hard to explain, but the legs did not move like that of a human and looked like they bent backwards. The witness also saw what appeared to be wings on its back, which were tucked into its body, with the wingtips extending toward the side of its head.